Whoa, revolves! So welcome.
How are we trying today to be able to try to connect a casino and the essence of finding good odds to develop an infinite energy engine? Oh, leveraging the mindset of how to get there. Welcome to the news, by the way. Stay till the end to find out how we're trying to go there. So fundamentally, how we are trying to show the way, the path to get down the little rabbit hole of leveraging the casino mindset to be able to try to fundamentally develop an infinite energy engine in the form of businesses, which is a little bit theoretical, but at the same time, we're trying to just simplify the matter by leveraging casinos in the essence of demand to supply, going from demand to supply. So, to try to simplify the infinite engine building mindset, we want to also try to leverage the mindset for developing a line of dominoes. Oh, yeah. So in essence, the hope is to try to reverse engineer the process of each individual reverse engine so that in essence we have an ability to develop more ongoing engines in the future that leverage demand to supply to be able to create wealth or develop wealth. Try to develop wealth to try to just go through the essence of life, go through the essence of the way that life functions in the day-to-day basis, which is why this podcast exists, to be able to develop a mindset for evaluating certain spiritual finance equations, to be able to focus on a way to just move through everything else in life, to be able to focus on just getting some wealth, yeah. So every single business venture is a little bit different, and we're going to try to focus on digital products at the same time for the purpose of less manufacturing necessity. In this little podcast, we're going to try to focus on digital products. So digital products are the focus, but in essence, we're talking about developing an infinite energy money-making system, also known as an engine, an infinite money sort of engine. Yeah, but the focus is in essence on the dominoes to begin with, and in essence, placing the last domino first. The first domino last. Placing the first domino last is what I meant to say. Just that's sort of like the choke cord to be able to start the engine. Oh yeah. And the idea is to be able to have those dominoes replenish themselves once it goes through the process of developing enough energy from the process of knocking down all the dominoes the first time around, and then in essence that engine has the ability to live off of that engine for a little while, that engine energy for a little while, and then the money in the system, the money monetary energy in the system has enough sort of motion to be able to restart itself and pick all the dominoes back up and knock down the first domino again to be able to recause and re-perpetuate the process, to be able to circle and cycle in itself in its own process in like an infinite little bit of a loop, an infinite energy engine loop. But the dominoes are sort of critical to be able to develop the friction, to be able to spark the spark, so that in essence it fires the synapses to be able to fire the cylinders, to be able to spit back out into the front of the line again, to be able to pick all the dominoes up again, to be able to knock over the first domino yet again, so that it's sort of hopefully like an ongoing little process that has the ability to play out, and you're leveraging also the house's money once you get past a certain element that corresponds to kick-starting the process to begin with. Oh yeah, so we're going back to the casino mindset, we're going back to the front of the casino mindset, which corresponds to the essence of sports betting. Sports betting is a mindset which is different from the open market and the free market section of life. Free market section of life is what spiritual finance is all about, is what this podcast is all about. The free market section of life, looking at the world as a casino as opposed to just looking at, and we'll take the essence of hockey, we'll take the focus of hockey, ice hockey, for like sports betting in this instance, because that's a common one in terms of sports betting, in terms of the casino business. So let's go into the mindset of placing a bet in a hockey game, for example. So there's an element where you're able to place a live bet during a hockey game until a certain element of time has passed within the hockey game, and every single minute and variation and variable there causes a little bit of a change to happen in terms of the betting odds and the strategy, or in other words, the payout that you would receive if you are correct on your bet. For example, so you can sort of leverage this information, this data, to be able to create your own little process for how you place your bet, for example. But one way to go about things to be able to try to get some return on investment is to be able to try to focus on the least amount of time remaining in the game for in hockey, for example, and then also like trying to leverage the score on the other end in addition, so that like your bet is being placed in the favor of the odds of like the favorable outcome, for example, and you're not necessarily going to 2x your money, which is like what you get if you correct bet on a specific item where it's like 50% odds, and then you get 2x on your money, for example, if you're correct on whichever side of the bet that you choose, for example. But we're just trying to leverage this mindset to be able to establish an essence of energy that exists in this mind frame, like the essence of this energy that exists by giving you 2x on your bet, the essence of that amount of energy that's there. If you're right on one side of the bet, it has to do with a certain amount of energy to begin with. And that also corresponds to the dominoes being in place to begin with as well. That is relatable to the dominoes. That's the fundamental energy to be able to kickstart, but it's also a matter of demand to supply. So this gets a little, I don't know if it gets complicated or not. Let's just see. So demand to supply. Demand to supply, we're starting with demand. The essence of the game of hockey is in high demand. It's in high demand. There's a lot of people. There's thousands upon millions of people that watch hockey. So that's why it's in demand. It's in demand to the extent where it's a given that people are watching it, so that therefore causes the ability for both sides of the bet, both teams to be bet upon, so that in essence there is a spread where there's a slightness where the casino wins a fee regardless, because there's a slightness in the betting averages and the odds to where they factor in the mathematics for their fee to be factored in. And it's not a giant spread necessarily, because it's obviously one side or another. One team wins or the other team wins, but it's such a popular game that spread causes the ability for the casinos to be able to play those odds so that nonetheless they get a spread in between. And the purpose of this whole mention is just to be able to acknowledge, in essence, the beginning of the whole purpose of the idea that hockey can be bet on in casinos to begin with, because it's in such high demand. It's in such high demand that this game exists to begin with, and money can be backing this game's outcome and results, because in essence there's such high demand that regardless, so many people are going to play, that regardless of the outcome, that the casino will make money because of their little spread, which is hidden in between the cracks of the odds of the betting process. But the actual casino winnings is not the focus at the current time. Where it is the focus is the essence of demand. The essence of demand. There's high demand in this instance, and this is where the calculation comes into the hands of the consumer, in terms of, not the consumer, the business maker, the engine maker, the engine developer. In this little podcast, we're talking about the engine developer in this little podcast. Basically, you are the engine developer. You're the infinite energy engine developer in this little podcast, for example, but we're trying to leverage the parallel and the mindset of sports betting to try to make it simplified a little bit more in essence, and comparing it to the beginning dominoes, which correspond to the essence of the energy that it takes to choke start, pull basically the engine to start in motion of this infinite energy cycle of cycling engine energy, which in essence, like any other engine that you understand and realize, like in a car, it runs itself. Once it's started, once it has the molecules and the mechanisms and the science and the scientific combustion process in place, then it runs itself, more or less. In other words, you don't need to help it once it's going, and it can help drive a car from one side to another. And so, how we want to leverage all of these mindsets together in a combined way to try to be able to develop wealth, to try to be able to develop wealth engines, is by leveraging, hopefully, digital products, because digital products don't require a whole lot of maintenance and such things to be able to sustain them. And then we're talking about demand. Demand, just like we're talking about the game of hockey being in high demand. Demand, significant demand, has to be the foundational, fundamental element to be able to try to pull this leverage of this mindset in this example, in this corresponding mindset focus into the essence of a connection to the casino, into the essence of hockey betting in a casino, so that in essence demand, which is in significant demand, like the millions of people that watch hockey across this country and the world, have an understanding for how that it is a relatable market connection. But this is kind of the punchline and kind of the kicker, I guess, if you were at all able to wait this long down the line to be able to get this far in the podcast, which I doubt anybody ever does. But anyway, if you did, the purpose is like actually focusing on the fact that you can create your own odds in life, because not everybody is measuring, in other words, not everything in life is being measured by a casino. There's a unique app called Market. Poly Market, which is like similar to Kalshi. Kalshi is another app, KALSHI. It's an app that corresponds to betting in real life terms on real life items, real life odds, and similar with Poly Market. Poly Market helps you bet on sports while they're live and happening, but it's an invite-only application on the Apple iPhone, Apple App Store at the current time. Nonetheless, the mindset is still relevant and resonates in the Kalshi app at the same time by being able to develop a betting system on odds of different things that have binary, one side or another processes in the world of existing conceptual betting, like on Kalshi, where they have a system like a casino where you can bet on different outcomes and actually develop, I think, money outcomes. And so this mindset corresponds to the essence of business research. Business research, where in essence, if you focus on demand, high significant demand, like these sports betting processes, like betting on like some award ceremony, where in essence, like in Kalshi, you can bet on the outcome of these potential outcomes. In a similar vein, if you are focused on demand, high significant demand, then these odds that the casinos get, these odds, these certain spreads, in essence, that the casinos are able to develop by developing an audience that plays their game alongside of them, so that one side or another, whoever wins the game, nonetheless, the casinos win because they have a spread. And you can develop your own process minus the casino's odds. Minus the casino's odds, you have to do research to try to bring in, like, for example, there's a way to, have a 60% bet in your favor, for example, if the score is higher during a hockey game. Whereas in life, for example, if you can feed into and also leverage digital products that people will actually use by actually having to get into the masses, and this is where the interesting part that corresponds to the Dominos in the beginning of the whole process as the choke cord to try to start this infinite energy engine to be able to start it off, in essence, because once you're playing with the house's money, then it becomes an infinite energy engine, because in essence that's just sort of the theory behind it, is once you can withdraw the house's money to begin with, then you're in essence just playing with an infinite money loop, because even if it dies after its choke started and it begins and it kicks out and it consistently is able to kick out money, then in essence you still have the house's money, you still have what you started with to start the investment, to start those dominoes basically. And then it's a no-loss game because, you're just playing for fun, but you can let it all go by hiring people. The beginning dominoes can be hires, small hires, hopefully in an ideal sense, things like little work, favor done sort of websites that, you can pay small amounts for small energy, small action energies, and those small energies like SEO clerks or whatever it is, which is actually BS that, other people don't make as much as other people in the world, but to be able to start these energy engines by playing into demand, because it's all about getting into the pipelines of demand. It's all about jumping into the midst of these hardcore demand energies in the world and leveraging these dominoes to kickstart this process so that you can kick into these infinite engine loops where you're making more money than it costs to be able to start the engine, and then you continue to be able to take profit and push profit back into continuing to pick up those dominoes and then knock them down again by leveraging the cost of the beginning actions to be able to start to develop one engine and then another engine and another engine, and continue to make infinite engine money loops on an ongoing basis to be able to try to stack wealth and make wealth and continue to develop wealth by connecting to this casino mindset, because you're looking for these odds, these high odds that come from games and games unfolding in certain ways. Then this is by reading the demand. This is by doing research on demand, because that is the game. That's the game of life unfolding in similar fashions, and that's how these casinos develop their equations. These casinos develop these equations by this demand energy, the demand energy of the winning potential conceivable outcome swaying in one favor, leaning to one side or one favor of one team or another. The potential of those happening conceivably are measured by the conceptual odds. But you as the casino, when you become the casino by measuring demand, measuring world demand, then you can start to make bets and place these bets that correspond to making these infinite money loops that can continue to feed into these demand energies and sort of become the casino, if you will, become a casino to a certain extent by making these odds, developing these odds, but playing them yourself. It's like making a casino and then playing at the casino that you just made at the same time, because that's the nature of this infinite energy loop. That's the nature of developing consistent, ongoing infinite energy loops. We're trying to leverage digital products and hopefully have a little small team that are able to sustain the energy and sustain the process and keep the plates spinning, if you will, and keep that energy of those plates spinning and continuing to pay the team to pick up the dominoes and continue to have that domino energy to be able to spark the energy, to be able to keep the plates spinning, to be able to keep spitting out a little bit more profit, leveraging consistent demand focus. The demand energy is what develops the houses and the casino's energy, the betting energy, the odds of the casino betting energy in essence. But continuing to do those mathematics, leveraging AI to read into the demand mathematics to be able to start and develop digital products, which corresponds to like e-commerce like selling, basically like e-commerce selling, but it's scalable, it's digitally scalable and sellable, and you can have varying go-to-market strategies. You can leverage AI by asking those go-to-market strategies and continuing to make little infinite energy engines with some of this hopeful process to be able to continue to recycle, and then having the team on the front end through the dominoes, through continuing to knock down the dominoes, and starting with the last domino first to be able to use it as a choke cord to be able to start these infinite energy engines, and then trying to diversify your infinite energy engines by leveraging demand energy, and making a different casino, developing a different casino game like hockey, on every single strategy with demand energy, where you make your own game of hockey, you develop your own game of hockey at the same time, and you develop that you can ideate that different people are playing, enough people are playing in the world. This demand energy is significant enough in the world where enough people are playing this focus, people are watching this game in essence, where it's very similarly aligned to the game of ice hockey, and enough people are playing to be able to connect with your own game of developing bets, placing bets by selling bets to be placed, and developing your own mindset strategy energy by feeding into these high demand energies. Whoa, similar to the hockey game, yeah. Okay. And let's all remember to clear the animal shelters, and hire all the shelter animals as healers among and throughout communities. Whoa, and clear the animal shelters, yeah. And look after all the animals in the world, to be able to hire all the animals in the world as our healers. In the short and long-term sense, hire all the animals in the world as our healers, as humans, in and among and throughout our communities, in cities and towns. That's all for now. Thanks again, Dink Tech. Change for Games. Dink Tech, Change for Games Studios. Bye. Peace. Bye. Yeah.